Welcome to Between Two Chairs, Demystifying Commercial Real Estate, the podcast that brings you the latest insights and trends on the South Florida commercial real estate market, with your hosts, Fernando Arencibia Jr. and Jennifer Woolman. In each episode, we dive into the world of commercial real estate and break down complex concepts to make them accessible for everyone. Whether you're a real estate professional, a curious investor, or just interested in the South Florida market in general, Between Two Chairs is the podcast for you. So pull up a chair and join us.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Between Two Chairs. My name is Fernando Arencibia, and with me, as always, is the networker that is Jennifer Woolman. Jennifer, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
So, Jennifer, I know we have a special guest. This is one of our things that we enjoy the most, is meeting great people and bringing them along to our podcast. So would you introduce our guest, please?
Sure. So first, a little bit of background of why he's the perfect person to start off our February. So our theme for February is the power of people in place. And so our episodes are going to center around the social aspect of real estate, highlighting community-centric developments, diversity, and the importance of placemaking. So that is why we thought the best person to start off this series is MJ Green, Michael John Green. He is the Chief Economic Development and Strategy at Miami Downtown Development Authority. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So before we get started, I'd like you to introduce yourself however you see fit. Give us some background of who you are and how you got to where you are today, and what you love about Miami, if you're not a native, etc. A little bit about you.
Sure. As you mentioned, my name is MJ Green. I'm the Chief of Economic Development and Strategy for the Miami Downtown Development Authority. I moved to Miami about 7 years ago from Seattle. My career has really been split between wealth management and I would say these kind of economic development and community development focused projects. I've worked everything from credit unions, nonprofits. I was the Deputy Director of Economic Development for Miami-Dade County, and now I have the pleasure of being the Chief of Economic Development for the Miami DDA, which is a quasi-governmental entity really spurred with economic development, not only from the state, but also the city of Miami, in Brickell, downtown, a little bit of Edgewater, the Arts and Entertainment District, some of the most expensive real estate, not only obviously in the state of Florida, but in the United States. I think Miami is having a major moment right now, and I feel blessed to be able to not only have this job, but also to be able to live here in this moment. And so my job, we really focus on, I would say, holistic economic development. That's everything from keeping the streets clean to focusing on the big and small businesses, bringing large events, whether that's FIFA, the College Football National Championship, but also supporting the small businesses that have been in our district for forever, like Manolo and Renee and the restaurants and different things like that. I think that I couldn't be more proud of the work that the DDA does, but also couldn't be more excited about the future and the opportunities that not only the DDA has, but also Miami as a whole.
Awesome. I love your enthusiasm. We feel the same way. And I've been here 34 years and just seeing the differences that have happened in the last probably 15 years has just skyrocketed. And I think people like you and the DDA, kind of working together in this public-private partnership to make it better and address some of the challenge we have are amazing. You mentioned something that I'd like to touch upon real quickly before we get in, and you said helping the small businesses that are already here. How are you seeing that? Are you seeing that as a challenge right now, given how many people have come from more expensive areas, and as a result of the success of Miami, the costs of everything going up? How do you navigate that line between bringing new people in and keeping the existing small businesses and the people that are already here?
I mean, rent stabilization is extremely difficult, and there's multiple factors, as you guys know, that play into rent prices. And so I definitely think that that's something that myself, the other folks who do this work, the elected officials are all concerned about, as well as the citizens that live here. But what I'll say on the positive note for the small businesses, especially in the DDA district, the opportunity for transactions in Miami, I mean, now is in such a special place. You know, if you think about it, there's a 500,000 people that get off cruise ships every single month just in the DDA district. All the people that come here, you know, the college football national championship was just here, all those folks from Indiana, and those opportunities to be able to get basically net new customers into your store, I think is a really attractive opportunity. And so we try to find ways to support those businesses and building that funnel for them. And so I think that, you know, there are some challenges, but there also are some really, really exciting things, right? More and more people have moved downtown. If you're a business in downtown, you have not only the 300,000 people that travel downtown every single day for work, the over 100,000 people that are up 40% that live in the DDA district. And again, I mentioned that 500,000 cruise ship riders. And then there's also, you know, a very active airport where people are flying in for events, for a vacation, and all those different things. And I think to be able to have kind of those four customer bases is really attractive. When you look at other places in the United States where maybe rent might be cheaper, we'll say in Alabama, Alabama doesn't have the tourists, doesn't have the college football national championship, you know, just so those the opportunity for a business to be successful here, I think has gone up with as well as the rent. And it's about trying to find that perfect equilibrium for us all to really be successful.
How do you, as a DDA, what are your top two or three economic priorities as you go into 2026?
I think the DDA, we're focused both on business, but also on the individuals that live here, right? And so for the individuals that live here, it's safety, cleanliness, it's activities and events for families and children, right? We just ended the new year, and I would say 4 weeks before the new year, we had our holiday village, and that was bringing thousands of people, not only from just the downtown area, but throughout South Florida to downtown to take pictures with Santa. We had a petting zoo and all those different things. On the business side, we have an incentive program. We incentivize and put cash and grants in the hands of businesses to open up in the district that can sometimes offset the cost of rent. That is really focused on net new businesses and bringing them to the area. And so we have an incentive program that focuses on ground floor retail, restaurants, mid-sized businesses moving into traditional corporate office space, as well as startups to continue to grow that ecosystem. For the businesses that have been here a long time, for our legacy businesses, the way that we really try to support them through events. We just did a networking event at Cush this past weekend in Brickell, but then also too trying to connect the dots. You know, one of the positions that we sit in is really being able to be a convener, and so having different workshops, panels, but also really just connecting the dots on those folks in different industries with other individuals looking for that expertise or that business. I think that the grant of $50,000 is great, but a business relationship, it can be worth multiple millions of dollars. And so really trying to facilitate those things as well.
I know that DDA has historically always been a connector between the businesses. So there's always that public-private partnership. And the DDA sometimes, you know, is kind of the glue that makes those connections. So beyond the money, there's that. But another thing that I've always appreciated, and I think you've conveyed it already very well, is anytime I've spoken to someone at the DDA, they know their numbers. They really know the district extremely well. And as you mentioned, they understand so walk through us about how you measure success. Are you looking at, you know, foot traffic? Are you looking at job growth, tax base expansion? You also mentioned obviously safety and quality of life. What do you guys look for to really measure success as you embark on these projects?
I mean, I think you mentioned some of them. I'll re-enter them. I think that safety and cleanliness, right? Miami, the city, the county, and the DDA district has never been safer. You know, I give a big shout out to our local elected officials, the police, our ambassadors that are on the ground in the streets. If you see folks in the DDA area with the bright orange shirts, those are our ambassadors. But Miami has never been safer. That's something that still you always want to improve on. You know, when there are issues, you want to obviously respond to them quickly. But we have a great moment, and Miami is relatively safe. So we look at that. We also look at people moving to the district, right? Individuals and units, whether that's apartments or condos in the district, is up 46%. And so there's more people moving to the district. Foot traffic, we look at that. But then one of the best things about this job is that my success is directly tied to other individuals in this community success, So the business is doing well, the business is growing, people being excited about coming here. And then, we have our State of Downtown coming up, which is kind of our, annual event, and it's around the impact of sports. Miami is now the number one sports city in America. All of the different sports that we have here, I think that, in my personal opinion, sports are a huge economic generator and driver. And being able to be blessed to help bring some of those things to town, but also for all of us to participate in those and for the businesses to participate. FIFA and the watch party being downtown this year, they're going to expect 300,000 people to be at Bayfront Park watching those games. That's a massive opportunity for our small businesses, the property owners, and everybody else. And so working on plans to help connect those 300,000 people to the small businesses in Miami is something that I'm excited to kind of embark on that. And so we look at that as a measurement of success. And then all those other growth factors. Are there more commercial office towers? Our commercial office space, as much as that's under pressure throughout the United States and really the world, Miami is doing better than most places. If you go to our website, we have a reports tab, and in there you'll see a demographic report, you'll see a commercial real estate, and a plan for really amazing first-class retail and diverse retail in the greater Flagler area. And I think as you look at those reports, so many of those numbers are trending in the right direction. And I think that that's what we really look like and look to continue to move those numbers all in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up those reports, because one of the ones that I went over was the one that you did on the office analysis report with Colliers. Was there anything in there? And one of the interesting things that we all have kind of been reading about and are aware of versus the national is that post-2020 migration impact of 350 plus companies relocating to South Florida. 150 of those came to greater downtown Miami. So was there anything in that report that you kind of had an aha moment, or to your point about being able to connect, that you said this might be a hole or an opportunity for the DDA to be able to either bring somebody in or connect that information with somebody that you want to bring here?
I don't know necessarily about a whole, but what I will say is that, taking those reports and trying to be really thoughtful and forward looking. Before my time at the DDA, the board, led by Nitin and some other folks, really wanted to bring more financial services and companies and hedge funds to Miami. And that might have been 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. If you look at where we are now, with Citadel being here, with that trading floor opening up in Wynwood, it worked and it happened. And so I think now we think about what are some of those other industries. I think that financial services and fintech continues to grow, and looking to connect and bring those companies down here. I think that healthcare, and especially in the longevity sector, continues to grow, and trying to connect those companies here. We have the infrastructure, we have the hospital infrastructure, we have the med spas and different things like that, as well as the wealth and the demand that's around longevity, I think is huge. On the other side, professional services. If you work in finance, you typically need a lawyer, an accountant, all those other things that go around building that business. And then on top of that, logistics. We have the number one cargo airport in America and the number one passenger cruise port in America, but also a cargo port that continues to grow. And so those are massive opportunities to work with companies that work in logistics and other technologies, as well as I would throw on top of their kind of aerospace. I think that's a little bit more for our friends on the west side of Florida, but I think the opportunities for that and the office space that might be connected to that is also an opportunity for downtown in the DDA. And so I think it's really about taking those reports. I don't necessarily think there's certain gaps, but kind of figuring out where the market is, trying to think what can we do that in 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be really happy that we embarked on the mission of trying to bring those businesses here. And I think that those are some of the sectors that we really try to focus on, build relations, and attract those individuals to move to Miami.
MJ, you're probably in the best position to really evaluate things from the perspective of, you mentioned two things, infrastructure and logistics. Let's speak about infrastructure from the point of view of public transit and transportation. Especially in and out of, and then within the DDA. Miami, as we continue to grow, for years, people have always said we have an underwhelming public transportation system, right? And I know that there's a lot of efforts that have been made to improve upon that. Would love to get your perspective on that. Does that continue to be a challenge in the district and coming in and out of the district?
I mean, I think it continues to be a challenge for Miami-Dade County. 80% of folks that live in Homestead drive this direction for work. So it's a mass exodus in the morning from certain areas. On the flip side of that, though, the DDA district has the most mass transit and all the mass transit in Miami-Dade County. The Brightline, the Metromover, Tri-Rail, and then the DDA pays for a service called the Freebee, as well as and then the county supports and the city supports the trolley, which is there. The DDA district is where you actually can live without a car and be able to get around, and the Metromover can take you basically most places for free. So we have that. Where we try to really focus on is the connecting people, or what some folks would call like the last mile drop off. That kind of reminds me of food drop offs, but the Freebie is a free service that we are looking to expand. That you use your phone, it'll pick you up and it'll take you wherever you want to go in the district. We want to work with some of our other neighboring areas to connect them as well, and so you can even take it a little bit further. I think that mass transit is extremely expensive. Miami is a unique environment. We can't go underground, so our mass transit has to be above ground. And you guys being real estate agents and the development that has happened in Miami, you have to then also realize the expense of expanding that. But I am hopeful, and we were at this Glydways dinner, and so the private sector, the public sector, I think are trying to think of unique solutions to help fix that. I am probably a somewhat extreme optimist, and I really do believe in the brains and power and ingenuity of people in not only Miami-Dade County, but the United States and the world, and hope that we will find interesting solutions that really fit for us. I think Gladways and the dinner that we were at could be one of those, and that's a smaller, maybe 8-person passenger vehicle that is maybe a more modernized version of the Metromover that I do think that could be a solution. But I think in economic development, if you look at New York, and for all the folks that love New York, what makes New York special, and I think makes it a juggernaut of sorts when it comes to economic development, when you look at other places, it really is the subway. It is being able to move people from one place to the other at an affordable price. And I think people might not go eat in Broward because it could be a drive to get out there. But if you could get on a train and it was $7 and get back, I probably would have a lot more dinners in Broward County. And that's economic movement, that's economic impact. And so I think that, we continue to try to work on solutions. The water taxi from Miami Beach to downtown just opened up. And so I think for some people that can be a solution. And I look forward to master planning, not only for the DDA, but for the cities and for the county to try to really figure out different solutions that will work for us, because we can't go underground, right? We're on porous.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a really important but interesting needle to try to thread to come up with those solutions that'll really work for us. But I think that the DDA is game for it. We are blessed and lucky that, 7-minute walk from my office, I basically can catch a train to go to Orlando, or I could take the Tri-Rail all the way up to, I think, Tallahassee. And that's in a walking distance. And I think that's also, too, why you see people moving to the DDA district. The DDA district has, quite a few, or one of the highest portions of kind of young 6-figure earners that live in the area. And I think one of the attractive things is being able to get around without a car. I mean, the Metromover is amazing. And the Metromover is old. I think I'm 40 years old. I'm pretty sure the Metromover is older than me.
Yeah.
And that's really amazing. I mean, that was a great start for Miami when you talk about mass transit. I just think that we need to focus on expansion. And I think that some of the temperament that people have around mass transit, we do need that to change.
I went to Miami-Dade College in downtown Miami. I worked in downtown Miami, and I know that building has changed names with the building that lights up, the tricolor.
The one that used to be the Centrust building back in the very old days.
Exactly. And there was a Great Western Bank there. So I worked at Great Western Bank, and I was going to Miami-Dade. But I lived in Westchester, where I actually still live. So I would drive to the Dayland station. I would catch the train. Then I would catch the Metromover. I go to school at 8 a.m. in the morning. Then I'll catch the Metromover to go back to work. Then I would work the day and then go back. And it was a great experience because I never had to deal with traffic. I could read books. I can catch up on work. It was really amazing. Jennifer and I have taken the Brightline to Orlando. I mean, I've taken that trip 10 times. Anytime I need to do work up there, it's just phenomenal. So, I see a lot of great opportunity. Before we get to the next point, I wanted to ask you, I was very curious to see the food hall that opened up at the Brightline. And I'm always wondering, just because it's such a transit, people are hustling, but, coming in and out. Do you know how those businesses are doing, within that Brightline station? Because I'm always so curious that there's an incredible variety. It's actually very good food, and it's a great representation of Miami food scene. So I'm wondering your take on that, or if have you heard anything about how they're doing?
They're on their third iteration of that food hall.
Right.
And I think that they got it right with the businesses that are in there that are from Miami that have names and a bit of a draw. And although it is a place of transit, there are hundreds of people that live on top of that place, right? And so I think that they enjoy it. They go there. Miami-Dade County has 30,000 employees. A good portion of them are 1 block away. And so they eat there. And so I think that this time around, it's doing well. I think the food there is great. I think that the way that it looks has always been great. And so I think that it's in a moment of hopefully people taking the opportunity to rediscover it. I think COVID and everything there with the tons of businesses, not only at the food hall, but everywhere across the world, be it Hurt Time and Patrick and the folks in the leadership at the Brightline, I think they've done a really great job. The Wolf of Tacos is one of my favorite places there.
Yeah.
And I try to go there as much as
Awesome.
possible. There's great sandwiches. Pepe's is there, pizza. It's really a great place. And we've had a couple of events there with the Economic Club of Miami and other groups. There's some great rooms there that you can use. And so I think that this time it will work and it's doing well. And I think that the people that are taking the Brightline, again, are one group of their customer base. The
Correct.
people that live above that building are another segment. And then all of the workers that are downtown are another segment. And so I think for a retail business, that's really what you want. You want those, you don't want to just kind of put all your eggs in one basket, right? It's only
True.
the people that get on the Brightline that I can sell food to. So I've got the people that get on the Brightline, I've got the people that live above this building, next to this building, and I've got the workers that are within, 1 or 2 blocks away. The new courthouse, right? Those are all those, that's 1 block away.
For sure.
So I think that this time around, it's working. And to my knowledge, most of those businesses are doing pretty well there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I was catching the train from Orlando to Miami. And when we stopped in the Fort Lauderdale stop, a bunch of people got in with Heat jerseys, right? Because they're coming down to see the game.
Yeah.
And some of them were just standing there like, they thought they were going to go grab a bite somewhere else. And then they saw the food hall. And I saw it with my own eyes. So like, let's go check this out. Because it's so convenient. You have a variety of choices.
It's quality food, too.
It's quality food, yeah. So, yeah, great opportunities. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I love the fact that you're connecting that to multiple users, right? I just came back from Switzerland, and I was dumbfounded when their public transportation system I've always been a fan of. But for the first time, I saw their main station has massive shopping, like brand names like Sephora. They have little shopping centers, they have barbers, they have everything. And to your point about what's happening now with the Brightline, it was people who live in the immediate area. It was freezing cold when I was there. That's where they're doing their shopping. They're not on the main streets when it's, 10 degrees below zero. They're doing all of their shopping, whether or not they ever get on the train or a trolley inside that space. So I love the fact that you're seeing that with the buildings and the workers. And then that, to me, in my opinion, that becomes a lot easier because that's more of an education and marketing play, right? Than it is. You've already created the space. You've got these great operators. Now it's just letting the world know that you don't have to get on the Brightline. You don't have to buy a ticket to go eat in one of these amazing places. And to your point about spaces. I didn't even know that you could rent space at the Brightline for events. And I think that's
awesome.
Beautiful. Getting back a little bit to the DDA, you mentioned that, the event that we were at Fogo de Chao were Glydways, and we'll put some in the show notes, we'll put some information about Glydways because it's a super interesting transportation alternative. But when I had mentioned that I was there representing the Miami Realtors Commercial Board, you made the comment, oh, we really need to get the realtor brokers more involved with the DDA. Can you expand on that a little bit? How can the association help you? How can individual brokers and agents help you or work together with the DDA to help you accomplish some of your goals?
I mean, I think on the commercial side, again, we have these incentive grants. If you want to open up a restaurant downtown and you're trying to help someone lease a restaurant, if our board approves it, and there's a process and an application, but if approved, 30 days after they open, I'm giving them $75,000 in a grant. I think that as a broker, that's really attractive, and that makes me a resource to be able to connect someone not only to the place to run their dream business, but also additional capital to ensure and help that business be successful. They do have to come to us before they sign the lease. And so we have a program for $75,000 grants for restaurants, $50,000 for what I would say other dry retail, up to $50,000 for people moving in traditional office space. So if I'm working with a law firm, a fintech company or whatnot that wants to move into an office space, being able to connect them to the DDA and being aware of our incentive program, that's an extra $50,000 that they can use to kind of make it easier to open. Opening up a new business, moving into a new space has a host of expenses. Some you'll expect, some you won't expect, right? I don't think that this money is necessarily life-changing, but it makes it easier and it's another resource. We also have a permit clinic. And so from the commercial side, I think it's really about the brokers knowing about those programs, sending the folks to us. We're not going to, for those worried about that, send them to another broker. We're not going to tell them yes, no, or don't move into this space. No, our goal is to support you, help get them here, help them out with the permit process that also saves time and money, and sometimes might save them more time and money than the individual incentive grants, and help get them open, but also support them with the grand opening party and then actual dollars for that business. And so I think it's just about, wanting to make your audience more aware of that. On the residential side, I think that we are both in lockstep with the brokers in trying to sell the greatest city in the world, which is Miami. And so I think the data, the information, what we are able to provide and educate on what's coming in the future, I think makes brokers more powerful, more aware. I think that the best salesperson is an honest salesperson, but also an intelligent salesperson that has resources and information. And I think that we can help provide those resources and that information to the brokers to help them even be better at their job and provide more value to their clients, which is all that it's about. There's actual cash value, but there's also value in information, connection, and relationships that I think the DDA is able to bring to the table. And I know that the real estate business and being a broker, truly moves at the speed of business. But we really want them to know that we are a resource, that we're here to help, and that we have these programs. A lot of times what we'll see happen is someone will move into a location, they sign the lease, they do all these things, and then 6 months down the road, they're saying, oh, we heard about this grant. Well, unfortunately, this grant is really for net new businesses, right? And so there's not much that I can do you then besides facade, maybe help you out with some marketing, different things like that. We really want to be able to be kind of at the beginning of that funnel and support those businesses before they move to make sure that the groundwork is already really laid for them to be successful. And so I think that that's really one of the key things that we want to get out to your group is that the DDA is a resource. I think that we are tremendous value add and kind of an understanding of the programs that we have, and sending folks to us is only going to make you look like a smarter, better, more valuable broker.
Can you tell me a little bit about the permit clinic? We talk a lot on the show about issues that we have with permitting and how the delays in permitting are not only an economic kind of strain on the landlord and the tenant, but they're also a huge strain on the municipality, because if we could speed up the permitting process and make it more efficient and maybe more uniform, then that's the sooner that they are able to collect taxes, have open storefronts, et cetera. So tell us a little bit about how the permit clinic works and what it entails.
Yeah, so the permit clinic happens every Thursday right next to Olympia Theater on Flagler Street. There's an office right there. It's our Flagler Street office. And we have all of the folks that are involved in the permit process from both the city and the county. So water, DERM, sewer, fire, as all people that have gone through permits, you typically send in an email to someone that you haven't met before and trying to transfer that email from different departments for folks that you haven't met before. We literally have them all sitting at a table where you can talk to a person, you can get information. Sometimes you're looking at a location or a property. I think one of the uh, most saddening things that can happen to retail small business is to sign a lease on a retail space and not know that it can't be a restaurant, or you need a massive change of use for it to be a
Right.
restaurant or what. But you can get that information at the permit clinic. Some of the difficulty around permits in Miami has basically created an entire industry of permit runners, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those permit runners go to the permit clinic downtown to be able to get their job done. And so I think that that's a massive feather in the cap for the permit clinic. I think that we're right shy of helping out our 1,000th client. So many people go there. And so I think that for the brokers, for the business owners, it is a true resource in being able to go and sit face to face with DERM, with water, with sewer, and they're at a table where the paperwork would be passed typically via email to another email box. It can literally move from one person to the next person that's sitting at the table, along with staff from the DDA that is extremely knowledgeable to really be able to help you out, usher it, and then check on it on the other days during the week. And so it's a huge asset. We see some of our local elected officials popping up smaller, truncated versions of permit clinics throughout the county. And we really think, that's exactly what we want. We want to be able to provide solutions that not only work for downtown Miami, but for everybody truly in South Florida. At the end of the day, I think that we're all on the same team. And so if I can find a solution that helps somebody in Miami Springs, Opelika, or wherever that might be, that's what we want to do. And so we are glad that some of the commissioners have picked, you know, this kind of clinic up and are doing it in their districts. And we look forward to continuing to do it. But it's a huge resource, again, every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We tell every single business that comes to us that wants to move to Miami, you got to go to the permit clinic. Yeah, location sounds great. What you're doing sounds great. I'm not an expert on that. Check out the permit clinic on Thursday and then report back to me on where you are. And so I think that, again, trying to add value as a broker, a commercial real estate agent, I think that that's something that adds a tremendous amount of value, but also will save you time, which is money for those folks. And being able to have that, I think, can separate you from the brokers that don't have the knowledge of the wherewithal or or know about the permit clinic.
Great,
That's awesome.
thank you. That is awesome.
I did want to ask you, MJ, because downtown Miami is such a great place for events. You have Bayfront Park, and when we've had events like the Ultra Music Festival and all that stuff, you're always trying to balance out the economic impact of an event like that. And Jennifer is a big EDM person, so she loves it. And then, of course, when you start to hear, unfortunately, some of the negative press, right, from people that live there and about what that experience is like for them, how are you guys balancing that quality of life with, attracting those events to downtown Miami?
Yeah, I think first, the goal is to try to make everybody happy. But we know that most times that doesn't happen. I think that, the role that we sit in is to really listen, right? I think that Ultra doesn't go on as late as they would want to. And I think that that's them listening to the people and to the community. I do think that from the hotels and for Miami and the economic impact, and that being one of the largest, most successful music festivals in the world, is a feather that I would like to keep in our hat and I would like to keep downtown. Working together on the cleanliness and the safety of it. Think about how many people are down there and how safe that is, and where there haven't been any real incidents when it comes to Ultra. I think that's amazing, and a feather in the cap of our police force the security around that. But I think that we are constantly listening and constantly trying to tweak and make things better. And so we value our community members and the residents. And Miami is nothing without the community members and the residents. I work for them and for us and for all of us. So I think that they are an integral part of all that. But I do believe that those events do also add to the bottom line and the value of the condos, apartment buildings, or whatever it is that they might own. I think that, living in Miami, which you guys have for a while, when I lived in Seattle, I moved to Miami from Seattle 7 years ago. Lived in Seattle 7 years. I had maybe one friend visit me every year.
I tell people that all the time. I moved
had
from San
7
Francisco
friends visit me in the
the
same
first week. Yeah.
And they're coming, sometimes I think for the fun. For the sun, but a lot of times for the fun, for an event that means something to them, for Ultra Music Festival, for F1, for E1, for UFC, for a Heat game, for a concert, for a cruise, whatever it might be. And so I think that that entertainment aspect is a huge aspect of our local economy and great diversity that we're able to have in our local economy. I think that that's one of the special things that we don't talk about in Miami enough. We talk about the diversity of people, but now we have this diversity in business. We have this diversity, I think, in sports, in entertainment. There are few counties in the world where Ultra Music Festival exists and Homestead Farms exist in the same county. 90% of all the green beans in America come from Homestead. There's not a many, I don't know if there is another county in America that has the #1 music festival and all the green beans in America, you know? And so I think that those things are important, but our role, and sometimes where we find friction, but I think is the reason for our existence, is to listen to the individuals that live in our community and try to provide solutions for whatever they might be complaining about and try to be the liaison between that, right? Sometimes it's difficult to get in touch with people at the city or get in touch with people at Ultra or whatever the festival is. Well, we have those relationships to kind of bridge that gap and say, hey, the community members really want this. And how can we somewhat meet in the middle? I think it's something that we are blessed to be charged, and I feel honored to be in the position to try to work in between both of those things. And I think that we have a great balance that is always continuing to try to improve. And again, I think this is the greatest city to live, work, and play in the world. And so I think that there are other places in the world that I know would love to try to find the balance that we have. And so, I think that the most important people to us are the folks that live, work, and play in the district. And so we try to listen to all those folks.
And I just love that, that you brought that up because, for years we're becoming more and more a city of neighborhoods and there's a flavor for everybody. And, we've had that experience where we've been to, a Formula One race, the Homestead Rodeo, one of the best nightclubs in the world.
Swamp too.
Right, exactly. Art, our Basso coming. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's a flavor for everybody. And I feel like people who live in Miami, we all have a little bit of a different experience depending of where we are and what we do, during our free time. I mean, it's just, but the fact that everything is so accessible and everything is here, it's just unbelievable.
I think that, for people that have lived in Miami for a very long time, for the new people that have moved here, Miami is an amazing place to continuously rediscover. I always tell people I'm having a better weekend than anybody because I live in Miami. My parents live in St. Louis, my brother and sister live in LA. I'm pretty sure every single weekend I'm having a better weekend than them. It's easier for me to get to the beach.
Yeah.
All the different things that we can do. So I 100% agree with you. There is something for everybody. I think, we have some amazing cultural institutions, one of Vizcaya, Kampong, the Deering Estate. I mean, there's so many amazing places to go. And I do really think that there is something for everybody. The PAM, Miami World Center, if you haven't really experienced that, is brand new and there's so much to do there. I just am really excited about that. And I think that the private operators, the business people, the ingenuity, and the diversity is seen through those people in all of these different things that we can do. And we really have some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, some of the best operators, some of the best event planners in the entire world, all in an area or a county or a district that you can, I would say get from one place to the other, in 35 minutes, barred no, super crazy traffic.
And I think it's important to note, going back to like the Bayfront Park and the events there, like Ultra, which I go to, or the Lifetime Miami Marathon, which also, when they first started, that was a big issue because they have runners get there at 4:30 in the morning, and that pretty much goes until 11 or noon. Bayfront Park is packed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those poor people living in those condos with all these runners and everything. But the county and the city and probably the DDA, everybody's done a really good job of coming together and making them feel like part of the party. And I can't tell you how many people were actually out on their balconies with their cafecitos, at the crack of dawn with their cowbells and everything, cheering on the runners. And I think with events like Formula One or FIFA or the recent College Bowl game, we have these events that are not accessible to everybody, right? They're expensive events. They bring in people from all over. They're limited events because of capacities. But having the county and the city and the DDA and the community all working together and providing free events so that people can be a part of it without having to go to the physical location is huge. And kudos to the DDA and the county for what they've done with Bayfront Park and how they've really activated and engaged that space. Because when I first moved here, that was a dead zone. It was not engaged, community didn't use it, etc. And now it is a vibrant way to bring people outside, or if you're lucky enough to live in one of those condos, you don't even need to go outside. Just go on your balcony and you can be a part of whatever event without going down into the traffic. So I applaud you guys for doing that.
I'm glad you bring that up, and I really appreciate that. And a lot of that is the thoughtfulness of our staff, our leadership, and Christina Crespi, and our board. Our board, led by Ralph Rosado, our chairman, is always pushing us to make sure that those events, it can be high-ticketed, that when we work with those types of events, that we have a free event for the public. UFC has come here over the past couple years, and last year they had the Fan Fest, which they only do 4 times a year. 5,000 people came out for that Fan Fest, and people were able to take photos and meet their favorite UFC fighters, and that was a 100% free event. So if you watched it on TV when you were home, you might have a photo or a signed, knee pad or something like that from your favorite UFC fighter, because the DDA, in partnership with UFC, had this free event the Saturday before the fight downtown on Flagler Street that also brings people out to be patrons of all those businesses that we were talking about before. But I think that that's hugely important. We want these events to be a part of our community. It isn't simply about coming here and having an event and being extractive. They are providing an economic impact, but we really want more than that. And we really encourage people like the folks that are out there ringing the bell for the races to be engaged and enjoy. And I think that, that creates a better experience for the person at the event, right, running, but also a better experience for the folks at the building, and to just kind of take that as a day of what it is and enjoy and be a part of that. And then it's gone shortly after that, and you're back to, whatever it was before. And so I really appreciate those comments, because we do try to really be earnest in doing that and kind of really providing that opportunity for the community, regardless of the price of the ticket, to be able to participate and learn about those events as well.
Great.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate everything you do in your time. Is there anything else you want to say? A question maybe we didn't get at, a hope or an ask that you have that you want to?
Yeah, I do have an ask. My ask is that, your audience, you guys, participate in the DDA. The DDA is for everybody. We are going through a process of adding some new board members. We'll add more board members in the future. We are always looking for the talented people in Miami to work with us and provide us their time, treasure, and talent to make the DDA district and Miami as a whole better. The DDA isn't an organization that is only for the businesses downtown, the people that live downtown, or the tourists that are downtown. Downtown Miami is for everybody in Miami-Dade County and really everybody in South Florida, as well as a gym for everybody in the world. And so my ask is that folks participate. All of our meetings are open to the public. All of our board meetings are posted online, you know, many days in advance. There's opportunities for public comment. We have committees, and then we accept unsolicited proposals for people with ideas. We put millions of dollars into events and activations that are downtown. And if you have an idea, if you have an event that you want to see, we want to help you bring that to the DDA district because we know that, again, downtown isn't just for downtowners. Brickell isn't just for Brickellites. Central Business District isn't for Central Business Districtites. It's for all of us. And we want us all to really be able to enjoy it. And we want to hear from everybody and want you to participate with us in continuing to make the DDA district the greatest place in the world to live, work, or play.
I love that. Thank you so much for being so inclusive. Miami-Dade County is a huge county. I think as a county, we're bigger than a lot of states. So the fact that you want to wrap everybody up in the DDA envelope is very appreciated. So thank you for everything you do. You're an inspiration, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. You know, your audience, you guys have been selling Miami and making this a great place and introducing to people around the world for a long time. We got a long way to go and more work to do, but we wouldn't be where we are without your audience. So I truly appreciate the opportunity and the time to be able to talk to you guys. And I look forward to seeing you at a DDA meeting and continuing to try to work together.
Definitely. I feel a field trip coming on for our agents.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Thank you so much, MJ. We appreciate you.
You guys have a great day.
All right.
You
likewise.
as well. Bye-bye.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Between Two Chair, pulling up a chair with us. And just want to say Jennifer and I really appreciate all the commentary, all of the engagement, and you letting us know how much you appreciate the podcast. So for Jennifer and I and for MJ, see you guys soon.